More now on our main news, the referendum on whether to change the system of electing MPs. Well, a little earlier, I spoke to two former Labour Home Secretaries, Alan Johnson and John Reid, who are lined up on opposite sides of the debate. Alan Johnson campaigning for the alternative vote, so I put it to him that he won his own safe parliamentary seat with such a large majority that a move to AV wouldn't make any difference at all to the result. So why change?
Of course, if you get more than 50% of the vote, it's game over under first past the post and under AV. Well, but under AV, you wouldn't send someone to Parliament whom the majority of the constituency was against.
John Reid?
Yeah, the reason that almost nobody in the world uses AV to choose their government, with the exception of Australia, where they've had to make voting compulsory. Indeed, they've had to make using all your preferences compulsory, and Fiji and Papua New Guinea. The rest of the world, 2.5 billion people, use the system that we introduced for the world. And one of the reasons that they did that is obviously, as I said, that one person, one vote is a founding principle of democracy. But the other one is you get a reasonably decisive government. And now all of the facts and evidence show that in the last 3 out of the last 4 elections in the United Kingdom, we would have had a hung parliament, a parliament in which, as David Cameron said this morning, politicians would have made promises before the election, but after the election had the excuse that they weren't a full government in order to avoid the very pledges they had made to get votes in the first place.
Alan Johnson, it's all very well, but which is worse, a one-party government with 37% of the vote or a coalition that has 52% of the vote?
I'm not against coalitions. John and his depressingly conservative colleagues are against coalition votes.
You're relaxed you'd be relaxed if the Labour Party never had another majority.
Look, this is not about which party gets party political advantage. This is about empowering the electorate. We have, can I remind you, John, a coalition government under first past the post. So not only does it send MPs with a minority vote to Westminster almost exclusively. Nowhere else do we do that. We don't do it in Scotland or Northern Ireland or Wales or the London Assembly, but we do it for Westminster. Not only do we do that, we also end up with the said advantage of first past the post, i.e. you have single party government, destroyed by last year's general election. In Canada, they have first past the post. The last 3 parliaments have been hung. In Australia, they have AV. They've only had a hung parliament twice in 80 years. So these arguments just do not stand up.
John Reid?
First, yeah, that's because in Australia, they were ending up with hung parliaments at the beginning of the introduction of AV many, many years ago, and you effectively have a coalition of the right, the centre-right parties combined. They operate separately, but they have a tactical voting agreement. That's why you don't have it in Australia. Secondly, I'm not against a hung parliament. It's not for me to be against a hung parliament. That's the electorate's decision. What I'm against is a system that will continually produce hung parliaments. And the alternative vote system,
It doesn't in Australia.
Because you'll have exactly what you've got at the moment.
But you're an anti-democrat, John, aren't you? If 52% of the people vote for the coalition and only 37% vote for the Labour Party, which is the more democratic outcome?
Ultimately, it's not even about who forms the government. It's about the right of every citizen of this country to have the same say, no more, no less, one person, one vote, as every other person in the country.
That's the hardest problem for you to combat, isn't it, Alan Johnson?
It's not. No, it's not. But it is the biggest deceit. My very good friend John knows this. He says that we gave first past the post to the world like cricket and HP sauce, as if it's a curiously British thing that we gave to the world. Well, they haven't got it in Australia, they haven't got it in New Zealand, they haven't got it in South Africa, where they didn't even consider first past the post. All those black South Africans queuing up with the joy of voting for the first time, it wasn't first past the post. Neither is it in Eastern Europe, neither is it in Latin America. You know, this nonsense argument that they equate one member. Just 1 second. One member, one vote is first past the post is ludicrous. It's one person, one vote in South Africa and France and Belgium and Netherlands and Sweden and Scandinavia, but it's not first past the post because they wouldn't countenance that. It's not just imperfect; it's wholly inadequate.
How many of these countries?
That is a fascinating point, isn't it? All these new democracies none of them went for first past the post.
None of them went for the alternative vote system.
Not even your Scotland.
Well, Scotland didn't go for the alternative vote system.
No, but they didn't
that's
go
the only alternative
The point is
on-
they didn't go for the first
on
past the
offer.
post.
Alan, I'll let you come in. Scotland didn't go for the alternative vote system. And if the truth be told, the alternative vote system is regarded as a miserable little compromise, not only by Nick Clegg, who's often quoted on it, but by people like Alan. Alan wants a proportional representation system. That I can see the logic of that. I don't agree with it, but I can see the logic. And as late as December last year, Alan was saying that he wouldn't go into this campaign full-hearted because he doesn't want AV. He wants a proportional representation. But
That's
that
one
is
on the
not
shins, Alan Johnson. That's one.
I do want proportional representation. That's right. I am engaged in this argument wholeheartedly because there's only one choice on the ballot paper, and it's a significant, small but significant move away from what I regard as a miserably disempowering system, first past the post. Now, they didn't give you a choice of PR because they were worried that the public might go for it. But what the public want is change. And this is change, and it means a further debate and a healthy debate about our democracy, including an elected second chamber, which will not be first past the post, I guarantee you. If we just vote for first past the post, we stick with what we've always had, having had the first opportunity ever for the British people to vote on their electoral system.
Alan Johnson and John Reid talking to me earlier. Now,